Here, have the center seat. Thanks. We're very pleased to have with us Fran, the UNICEF Afghanistan Representative, and he's here to talk to us about the situation there. Mr. Equiza, the floor is yours. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. A few weeks ago, I visited a health clinic outside Kabul, replete with female health workers and lines of mothers waiting patiently for nurses to vaccinate their babies. One mother trusted me to give polio drops to her baby girl. And when the nurse confirmed that her baby was now safe from polio, she smiled. I don't speak Dari or Pashto, but as a parent, I understand the unspoken language of relief. Across Afghanistan, there are nearly 16 million boys and girls, like my son and my daughters, like your sons and your daughters, for whom that relief is out of reach. They wake up hungry. They go to bed hungry. They don't have clean water to quench their thirst, or soft blankets in which to sleep. They have become all too used to laboring at home, on the streets, in fields, in mines, in shops. Too many live in fear of violence or early marriage. Too many are burdened by the weight of adult responsibility. Too many have been robbed of an education. They are one hope of a better life. Because in what is a deeply troubled country, grappling with humanitarian catastrophe, climate-related disasters, and egregious human rights abuses, too many people have forgotten that Afghanistan is a children's crisis. It's a crisis that's getting worse. Today, an estimated 90% of Afghans are on the brink of poverty. Children bear the brunt of it. 2.3 million children are expected to face acute malnutrition in 2023. 875,000 of them need treatment for severe acute malnutrition, a life-threatening condition. Also this year, around 840,000 pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers are likely to experience acute malnutrition, jeopardizing their ability to give their babies the best start in life. And although the fighting has, for the most part, stopped, decades of conflict mean that every day children's rights are violated in the most appalling ways. Afghanistan is one of the most weapons-contaminated countries in the world. Most of the casualties are children. Preliminary data suggests that between January and March this year, 134 children were either killed or maimed by explosive devices. This is the reality of the escalating danger faced by Afghan children as they explore areas that were previously inaccessible due to fighting. Many of those killed and maimed are children collecting scrap metal to sell. Because that's what poverty does. It compels you to send your children to work, not because you want to, but because you have to. Approximately 1.6 million children are trapped in child labor in Afghanistan. Children as young as 6 were in dangerous conditions to help their parents put a little food on the table: bread, beans, potatoes. And where education used to be a symbol of hope, children's right to learn is under attack. Girls across Afghanistan have been denied their right to learn for over 3 years now. First, due to COVID-19, and then, since September 2021, because of the ban on attending secondary school. I don't need to tell you of the impact of these absences on their mental health. Despite the consequential challenges, including the recent unacceptable bans and directives targeting Afghan women, UNICEF is there for every child. We are committed to staying and delivering for the women and children of Afghanistan, just as we have for nearly 75 years. We are adapting to the fast-changing realities on the ground, finding solutions to reach the children that need us the most. while ensuring that Afghan women employed by UNICEF can continue their invaluable contribution to our work for children. In the first 3 months of this year, for example, thanks to our courageous staff, especially our national female staff, the NGOs without whom we couldn't reach communities, our donors and partners, 7.5 million people benefited for UNICEF-supported health facilities. 600,000 boys and girls learn in community-based education classes, 55% of them who are girls. More than 140,000 children under 5 receive treatment for severe acute malnutrition, and 86,000 households receive humanitarian cash transfers. But the needs grow every day, and UNICEF's Humanitarian Action for Children appeal is only 22% funded. It's May, halfway through the year. Practically, that means we cannot support all the children we need to support. So we are urging the international community to rally together and help us alleviate the suffering of children, women and families in Afghanistan. This plight is not of their making. Together, we can, and so we must, make their lives healthier and more hopeful. But we need urgent help right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Equiza. I'll now turn the floor over to questions. First question goes to Edith Lederer.
Thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. My name is Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. Obviously, we've all been covering the plight in Afghanistan since the Taliban takeover, and especially the impact on women and girls. And the fact that the appeal is only 22% funded goes along with a lot of appeals that we've heard for a lot of other countries. So Afghanistan is competing for donor funds with many other countries. Why should donors choose Afghanistan, especially when the Taliban have been cracking down on not just women and girls, but also minorities?
Do I answer now? Thank you very much, Madam, for your question, and a pleasure meeting you, in fact. Where the human rights are more violated, where the children's rights are more violated, where the women's rights are more violated, is when we have to redouble our efforts. When those things happen, the more destitute people, the more disenfranchised people are the ones who suffer the most. And this is the case of Afghanistan. Every action the Taliban make that make their population suffering more should be our plea to do more for these people who are desperate for our help.
Pam?
Thank you very much for the briefing. It's Pamela Falk from CBS News. Can you explain what the situation is for UNICEF in Afghanistan, how you're working within the ban, and what the UN is requiring? Is it subject to one of the waivers for health? And how much of these desperate and grim numbers that you talked about, people and children, has to do with this, with the ban? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. UNICEF, with partners, is running on a daily basis 2,400 health facilities and hospitals that provide support to mothers, support to babies, routine vaccination. Our teams deliver babies by the day. We bring hope and life by the day. We have also 800 nutrition centers on top of that are taking care of those kids that are malnourished, and also providing advice to the caregivers on how to do that. And as I mentioned, we have 600,000 children that were out of the school, children that never put a foot in the school that now are in our community-based education, which counts for around 18,000 classes. The ability to deliver for them is critical for us. And we have been able, with the effort of amazing women, the effort of amazing partners, to make sure that we go every day to these health centers, they go every day to these hospitals, they go every day to these classes to make sure that the life of the children are not interrupted.
Right, just as a follow-up, so the UNICEF Afghan female staff is able to provide care?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Evelyn?
Evelyn Leopold. I think Pam just asked the question of how are you delivering? You're using local staff, women too, international staff, women also, and they're not being persecuted.
We thank you for the question. We spare no effort to deliver for the children and women. So we count with our national female staff, with our national male staff, with our international female staff, our international male staff. We count with the amazing work of the partners, more than 100 partners that UNICEF has operating in every single district of Afghanistan. And we fight for the space. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we succeed. I must say that in health and nutrition particularly, and in polio, which is some of the terrible situations that still Afghanistan, alongside with our neighbors Pakistan, is suffering. For instance, on that, we have been able to vaccinate almost 10 million children over the last 3 months against polio to make sure that we reduce that. So it's a constant battle, it's a constant discussion to make sure that our women can continue working, because we cannot do our work with our women. We cannot. We cannot. Me, myself, as a man, I have no access to many people that my female colleagues have access. I cannot knock in the door of a household in which there is only a mother and be received. That would be completely inappropriate, completely unacceptable. My female colleagues can do it. My female colleagues can reach much more the elder, the disabled, the mothers, the widows, and the children, definitely. So we are managing as much as we can, with difficulties, I must be honest on that, to keep serving the people. And we will not spare any effort on that.
Thanks very much. A question in the chat from Iftikhar.
Thank you, Farhan. My question was actually for you, but since you are not in the seat, I will direct it to you, to this gentleman. There has been a change in the leadership in Afghanistan. Abdul Kabir has taken over as acting prime minister, and Mr. Akhund has gone on medical leave. Do you expect things to turn around now?
The question is for you, I guess.
At this stage, Iftikhar, just to let you know, of course, we deal with the de facto authorities as a whole, and we will see what we can do in terms of dealing with them. As you know, this is the de facto authorities on the ground. This is not recognized within the UN system as a government. But if there's anything you want to add.
No, my time in Afghanistan has taught me that predicting the future is dangerous everywhere, extremely risky in Afghanistan. So to be honest, I would not bet any penny on my pocket about any potential outcome of this decision.
I think that's an excellent answer. Stefano.
Thank you very much for this briefing. Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York. It's a question that we have been doing, we did before also to other people that came from Afghanistan to brief us. You describing a situation where it's very dire, people are actually risking to die of cold, of hunger, and so on. So people that leave Afghanistan now, will try to leave Afghanistan, should be considered refugees. Actually, I believe that this country, United States, is considering Afghani as a refugee. So my question is, at this point, if you cannot have the women working, have reach the people with help, you're saying that you actually, this is a news for us, that actually UNICEF has been able to reach these children and having women working. So this is a good news. But if the things goes even worse, if we have a situation that even worse, would you advise the Afghani mothers to take their children and leave the country and find a place where to start again their life?
Thank you, Stefano. I would say that all women of the UN in Afghanistan are working. They are working, some of them from home, some of them from offices, some of them from the field. I think that this applies to UNICEF, this applies to all my sister agencies. But I want to say that I've been serving in a number of places, and the courage and commitment of the Afghan woman, it's much bigger than I can even explain here in this forum. Those are women, particularly those of certain age, that have gone through extremely difficult circumstances in their lives for the last 40 years, 50 years. And their resilience, their commitment to their own people, their commitment to say, this is my country, and I want to do as much as I can, and I will do to the extra mile every time to make sure we can serve. I'm talking about doctors, about nurses, about professionals, on any aspect, is absolutely inspiring. I must say, as a Western man just working in Afghanistan, it's a lesson that I learn every day of inspiration of how the Afghan woman, and the Afghan men, obviously, but the Afghan woman are not going to give up no matter what. And they have looked in my eyes saying clearly, Mr. Fran, no matter what happened, we need that you back us up, but we are not going to give up. This is our country, this is our lives, we are not going to give up. I would feel very conflicted to recommend anyone to go on a refugee status. I think that other people in the system knows much better than me what we are trying to do, and with the support of partners and of donors and the international community, is to make the life as best as possible, as better as possible in Afghanistan, to reduce the burden of a mother to have to choose between two evils, to reduce the burden of a family to decide, do I take a difficult road to get out, or to smuggle, or whatever it is, or I can have not only a present, but a future. And I want to say something very important. Some of the things that UNICEF and the UN in general is doing in Afghanistan, and these are not my words, it's the words of the people I serve, the people I have the privilege to serve, is you give us hope. Do not abandon us. If you abandon us, hope will go, and anything can happen. If you stay with us with difficulties, with trouble, maybe not doing everything you want because you don't get the money, because you don't get access sometimes, but the fact that you stay with us make us thinking that there is a tomorrow. Even the girls, 15 years old, 14 years old, they cannot go to school because the school is banned. Still, they look at you and saying, keep pushing for us. If you keep pushing, one day we'll be able to go to school. Maybe not the next month, but we'll go there. So I want to say genuinely from the bottom of my heart, if you allow me, Stefano, the fact that the international community, that the UN, that the NGOs are in Afghanistan every day, shoulder by shoulder with the Afghan people, gives something so intangible. I cannot put in the reports to my donors, but it's hope that tomorrow can be a bit better than today.
Thank you. On the screen, Yvonne Murray, please.
Thank you very much, Farhan, and thank you for this briefing. It's Yvonne Murray from RTE News Ireland. My question is, can you assess the level of risk that female NGO workers are running by defying the Taliban decrees and carrying out their work, either female workers, NGO workers who work with UNICEF or with your affiliated agencies? And my second question related is, have any members of your staff been subject to abuse, either verbal or physical abuse, as a result of the work they're carrying out, and again, defying the decrees of the Taliban? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and I'm sure, Ivan, that you will understand I cannot comment on operational aspects of security, basically because they will challenge my own operational security in a country in which, we have a long history of attacks and of dead bodies and of casualties, and even today the situation is a bit better. Still, we are subject to threats and to a number of risks. What I can say is that we don't take any decision that is an unacceptable risk for anyone. We are very measured on what we do, and security of our staff and duty of care for our staff are paramount alongside with delivering for the people we serve. Every decision we make is related to this triangle: how we can deliver for children and mothers and women that need us, how we can deliver that with security, and how we can do it making sure that our staff receive the duty of care that they deserve and that we need for them.
Thanks. Edie?
Thank you. A couple of follow-ups. Is Afghanistan at a point now where children are dying of malnutrition?
I would say with a lot of humility, we have been able to secure enough funding to heavily reduce the likelihood of any kid to die of malnutrition. As I mentioned before, we have around 3,200 centers in the country that are treating malnutrition, anticipating the situation, treating when it's needed, and providing advice in advance. Could be that some kids could die of malnutrition. I could not say no to that. What I'm saying is that thanks to the efforts, the likelihood of this to happen is very minimal. But it's true. There are some very remote communities. There are some communities that are very far from any center, and despite our mobile health and nutrition teams, some people cannot be reached. And also, there is important to understand there is an issue of learning or of knowledge of the parents when the symptoms of a kid deserve to take them to a health center or not. So I cannot categorically say that no kid is dying of malnutrition. That would be completely arrogant from my side and uninformed. But I must say that the efforts put in place have been massive to reduce what is probably the case, the country in the world in which proportionally, the number of children with acute malnutrition is the biggest in the world.
And what happens if your funding stays at a very low level? You're now at 22%.
Well, what's happening is what is happening now. I'm touring to talk to every donor, to take to every member state, to talk to you. You are the voice of the children and women in Afghanistan. It's not only me. You have a power to tell the world what is happening in Afghanistan that I don't have. I can talk to you. I'm just a representative of UNICEF in Afghanistan. This is the only job I do. And you have a speaker that I don't have. And it's because I'm very grateful that you are here with me today to explain what's happening in Afghanistan. We are unfortunate, for political reasons that you all know, that we have very little donors present in the country because of the political situation. So if they cannot come to the country, I go to them to tell them the story, to tell the reality, to tell how we operate, to tell the situation. And I must say that I'm receiving positive signs. There is obviously fiscal crisis in certain countries where I understand, but there's positive signs of keeping engaging with Afghanistan. So I hope that we will mobilize more resources. And as always in UN, we keep looking what is the best way to spend the money that we have, that reach the more people in the most efficient way. Obviously, if we receive only half of the funds, we'll be able to do half of the things. But I can reassure you, Madam, I will prioritize all my funds to make sure that not a single kid die of malnutrition. That will be my main priority.
And just a third follow-up. How do you assure donors that the money is going directly to UNICEF and its operations and not to the Taliban for its activities?
Yes, I have. I can guarantee we have extremely robust mechanisms of risk management. We don't transfer money to the Taliban at all. We do our own operation. The money pays our salaries, our supplies, or our partners' salaries and supplies and operations. We don't put a single penny of our pocket in, we don't do any single transfer to a Taliban account or to a ministry or wherever it is. Whatever we do in health is out of the hands of the Ministry of Health, or in education, or in child protection, or in WASH, clearly. We work with the communities, we work with the partners to make sure that the money goes strictly to those who need it, which is the people we serve. Thank you.
I don't see any further questions, so I would like once more to thank our guest, Fran Equiza, the UNICEF representative in Afghanistan. Thanks very much, and best of luck to you and all your colleagues.
Thanks
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
And now the spokesperson for the President of the General Assembly, Paulina Kubiak, will talk.